Jill, welcome to the podcast. I'm very excited to have a chat with you about different topics that are very relevant to my audience. So, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
My first question to my guests is just tell us a little bit of a snapshot of your career story, kind of, where you've been, where you're headed, and what you're doing today.
I started my career in law school. Thought I'd be an attorney, then got to law school, thought, uh-oh. So I actually switched to the music business, which I loved. And that's really where I got my publicity chops down because, well, music business is all about perception and branding. And from there, I opened up my own PR agency. And then when I got tapped on the shoulder to write Guerrilla Publicity, I found new ways to help entrepreneurs with publicity crash courses and boot camps and just really simple ways that were far more affordable to get their name out there. And that's what I'm still doing now. Love
That's
it.
that's great. And it's so there's so much that we can cover within this realm, right? But I think what I would like to focus on a little bit more, which is relevant to my audience in terms of just that personal brand piece and that networking. So what I often see people, and of course, maybe you have the same experiences, when they try to start a business or they're looking to kind of, get out there, get their name out there, networking is the big thing that comes to mind. Like, okay, I have to network. How do I do that? And I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions about networking. So talk to me about like, what are the biggest myths or misconceptions people have about networking? Let's start with that.
Well, first of all, that you can kind of do it as a one-off. I mean, there are many opportunities to come into a meeting and make an impression and go out, especially on Zoom. I think our opportunities have been really widened. But I'm really big on even when you're networking on Zoom. I mean, people are watching your energy, make sure your name is spelled correctly and that you have full and last name. Do some like private networking with people. Hey, you look really interesting. I'd love to connect. And, as far as networking in person, I think honestly, people are grateful to be back again. But, you also have to respect boundaries. I noticed I was doing an in-person networking and I'm like, I'm a big hugger, but I'm not hugging right now. But people just assumed a lot of things, right? And
Mm.
so be careful of your assumptions. Make sure you check with people what's okay with them, especially in person now, because I think there are different parameters. And always a good networking tip is around the food table is a great place to network. People love their food. You can always make easier conversation there if that's easier for you.
Mm. Hey, you, thanks for watching. If you're enjoying this episode, make sure to share it with friends and family who might find it interesting. Make sure to hit the subscribe button as well to stay up to date on weekly new videos that are going to be coming out with some awesome guests that I bring on. And if you have any questions, use the comment section to ask me questions, to interact. I look forward to talking to you. Absolutely. And I love the piece of just being mindful of your surroundings. So it's almost like what I hear you saying is that networking is around that social skills, like, adjust to the situation. Very often pre-pandemic when networking was just like, everything was in person, you always see people that are just collecting business cards versus adjusting to that social situation. Okay, is this the place to actually do that? Or is it a place to actually build relationships? And I mean, my 2 cents there, I always say, go the route of building relationships. But anyway, so I wanted to also kind of dig a little deeper. So one of the questions I get often is, I'm an introvert, I'm very shy, I'm not so outgoing. How do I actually put myself out there, whether it's through networking, whether it's through putting my personal brand out there? How can actually people who are a little bit less extroverted than others can do that?
Well, here's the super good news. Publicity is a great way to get your name out there because you can do it through written articles where you don't even have to talk or be seen. You can post in wonderful places those articles like medium.com. So I love publicity. And then, if do what's comfortable for you. Maybe podcasting without video might be more comfortable for some of you. Terrific. Do that. They're available. Or, blog talk radio where nobody sees you. That's available, but you can still just talk and get out there. Introverts, listen, I've worked with a lot of introverts throughout the years. And here's what I know when your message is clear and focused and consistent to who you are, then it gets easier. right? Networking gets easier, and being who you are is fine. And you don't have to say to everybody, I'm an introvert or I'm a fill in the blank. Just be your wonderful self, but have a message that's simple and easy to focus you on so that you feel prepared. And again, I know that once your message is good, your confidence gets elevated.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think just figure out what works for you, right? And so another question for you would be, is it for everybody? Should everybody have this personal brand out there? You know, should everybody have this, you know, personal website and that, you know, and be putting themselves out there? Or is it reserved for specific kind of industries or professions?
You know, I believe everybody should have a, shall we say, an identification, a personal brand. Yes. What does that mean? It means depending on what you're promoting, your brand may or may not be the biggest part of that. So, you know, from a publicity perspective, I always look with my clients, is your name recognition important, or is it more your product slash service? But still, even if it's a service, let's say you're a service industry professional, you're still going to be picked based on who you are, your brand, your energy, your, you know, what I would call definite, you know, publicity image, right? And so with that, I think it's really key to zoom into what do you want to be perceived as. But often with clients, we will make decisions. Do you want name recognition? Do you want product recognition? Take a look at that, because that to me is a decision.
I'm curious about that, because I always feel like, and this is just from my personal opinion, but it seems that when you have a strong name, like as your name, your reputation, it's almost like anything you sell will go, or anything you're promoting, whether it's services, will go, because you and your reputation already has the credibility, the trust, like, right? So but also now that you got me thinking, it's like, okay, well, if you're promoting a product, you know, I'm always mindful, like, does the company name have more strength, or does it vary? I'm just curious, like, how have you seen?
I think it really depends what you're promoting. I mean, I have 4 books now. Yes, I have name recognition, but that, you know, took time. I will tell you that in the beginning, so to speak, I think it's really key. For me, I think it was important to have name recognition. If you're a speaker, an author, you want name recognition. If you're a consultant, a coach, you know, it might be, I still think people knowing your name is key so that they can pick you, and then they pick your service that they want underneath that, so to speak. I think in today's world, particularly, that trust factor, that feeling close to who you're working with, feeling connected to them, it's probably more important than ever.
And so and another question is, you know, does it, like, how do people, I guess, find out where should they be, like, should everybody write a book, or would podcast be the way? Like, what do you see as the trend? Because I feel like it's always trendy. Like, podcast has exploded now, right, over the last few years. Although there's like millions of them, really actively there's only like less than 1 million or something like that active podcasts. So there's a lot out there. So that definitely has exploded nonetheless. A lot of people seem to be publishing books, but what have you seen as the trend? Is it those 2 areas? What was it before? What do you foresee might be the trend for publicity in the coming year or 2 or 5 years?
So I think a couple things. One is, yes, podcasts are very, very wonderfully exploding. I think it's great to be a podcast host. What makes great about that is that you have the opportunity to invite guests. Guests that perhaps you want as clients, as interviews. And I think that that's really powerful. I think it immediately puts you in front of people, which is great. A book is a little bit of a different animal. Listen, you know, every one of these books, now I'm on major publishers, took 18 to 24 months just to come out. That doesn't even count my time to write it, prepare it, contract negotiation. You're looking at least about a 3-year process. And, you know, some people aren't patient enough for that, in which case I would say, get like a hybrid or self-published book, they can come out a lot faster. So I love that. I think books do give you credibility, but I don't want people saying, well, I'm not going to do this until I do a book, because honestly, books are not revenue generating activities, except that they lead to consulting, they lead to speaking engagements. That's good, right? So I prefer that most people get right into, you can get articles written quickly. You can get a podcast set up probably faster. There's a lot of things you can do. And then in the meanwhile, get the book done. But, I have a little joke that if you want to get a book done, get someone else to help you with it, because the perfection thing that I've seen in people, it just takes way too long. One of the things I've been really good at is helping people get their books out fast and get off that sort of perfection trap, that everything, needs to be perfect, because done is better than perfect, just saying. So I'm just big on whatever way we can get you out there. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and listen, writing books is something that I don't think people understand until you actually write a book. So the fact that you've written 4 is phenomenal. As you know, we initially connected because we were looking for a publicist for Bestern, because we recently wrote a book, and it took us like a year probably right now, and we're still months away from actually releasing it. There's a lot of things that need to be done. And it's been a journey. And again, to the misconception of anybody who's listening, who's like, maybe looking to write a book or is an entrepreneur, they don't bring money most of the time. I think it's only like a 1% of all the books published, if not less, that actually, maybe my numbers are, but it's a very low percentage of books that are published that actually make money. But to your point, it does do volumes for marketing and branding and being invited. So I think it's a great investment, and it's an opportunity to put your thoughts and value into a document that can then help a lot of people as well, those that come across it.
Yes. But I would rather, yes. And I think what's key is get some help getting the book done, is what I want to say. I'm happy to provide. I've got resources, people, hybrid publishers that make this a lot easier, as opposed to having to work on this for year after year. So just saying, there's so many shortcuts and hacks now, and let's utilize them.
Yes, absolutely. And so I want to talk about, I think it's the latest book that you wrote, which is The Profit of Kindness. And I just love the topic. I love the title of it. So talk to us a little bit more about who you wrote the book for, who is your ideal reader, and kind of what are some key points, without giving too much away, that, you share in the book.
Thank you. Well, with The Profit of Kindness, what I was really looking to do was, frankly, not only start a kindness movement, which I now am doing kindness circles every single month, and bringing business owners together, but really create some what I call return on kindness principles, because everybody wants ROI, as you should. Yes, and let's do return on kindness principles, rocks, ROKs. So, some that really help return on kindness principles include things like patience. Oh my gosh, in today's world, we need more of that. How about flexibility? That's a big one. Things change, clients change, appointments change. You got to be flexible these days. That's part of kindness. Like even just those 2, I have 7 of them. Another one is compassion. What are people going through? If they're not ready. I've had clients who maybe just didn't feel good, and I'm like, listen, this is not the best time to do your publicity consulting session. Let's reschedule. So that also has to do again with flexibility. So those are 3 of my return on kindness principles out of 7. Let me just say, practicing them is a virtue, and I wrote it because I think businesses need to be more kind. This world needs to be more kind. So the Profit of Kindness, its intention is to give people real world things to do to be kinder, and then also bring in large companies, people who are doing it, and small companies, people are doing it, and the difference it makes. And here's what's interesting. Consistently, well, large or small, everyone I interviewed, when they were practicing kindness in their companies, guess what happened? They made more money. The CEOs were happier. The people who worked in the organization were happier. The customers were happier. Go figure, right? That kindness does lead to revenues. and that it's actually consistently tracked.
Yeah. And I think it's super important because a lot of times, especially for people who are kind of, looking for that, whether it's that next career move or going into entrepreneurship, it's almost like you're hungry for that growth and that, a lot of it is financial incentives. Let's be realistic, right? But the reality is it's such a long-term game, and the way you build those relationships and everything you mentioned is through kindness. And I completely agree with it. And I think it's a beautiful way to approach it. And I look forward to reading the book as well. I'm definitely gonna have yet to get it, but I'm definitely gonna add it to my list. To my reading list. And I think it's a beautiful way to look at to look at business in general from a different perspective that I think is more long-term game, but I think it's going to probably bring more profit ultimately. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And I've been, helping companies, large and small, with their what I would call cultures of kindness, right? And we're looking at real world things that staff can do and making things happen so that the company is kinder. Because here's what's interesting, especially in these days of the Great Resignation, people want a company workplace that is kind, that's fulfilling to them on many levels.
Yes, absolutely. So Jill, where do you hang out at? Where can people get in touch with you, get your book, and just connect with you if they're interested to pursue continue the conversation with you?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I've got a free gift for all of you. That's one way, because part of that free gift is a free publicity masterclass, live and interactive with me, just saying. So it's a lot of fun. And you go to publicitycrashcourse.com/free gift. And also, I'm inviting your listeners. Please don't publish this link everywhere, but for your listeners, I would love to invite you to my kindness circle, knowing who Elaine is. And I know that you're going to love it. It's an opportunity to actually be in circle, connect, and spread leads and referrals. And so that's jilllublin.com/kindness circles. Those are the places that you can start with connecting with me.
Thank you, Jill. And I'll share that in the notes, except the kindness circles, only if you're listening to this, you get access to it. Otherwise, I'm not going to publish it. So you have to actually listen to this episode through the end to get it. So Jill, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to chat with you. I hope to have a chat with you again when your next book comes out. And thank you again for being a guest.
Thank you for having me. It's delightful to be here.